I promise you, this is the easiest tutorial you've ever watched. I made these bouquets for a wedding, and you can too. Let's begin with the materials you need for the bridesmaid bouquet. You will need 5 artificial roses, 5 sticks of artificial baby's breath, a glue gun, some glue sticks, naturally, tape, thick tape, no scotch tape, okay, the thick stuff, and then some ribbon. Any ribbon will work, no matter the texture. Okay, some quick tips to help you out. If you order the roses instead of buying them in person, they may be a little flat when you get them, so just play around with the petals, loosen them up. They'll look a lot fluffier, a lot nicer in your bouquets. Also, for me, the roses that I ordered weren't always perfectly attached to the stem, so sometimes it was practical to just add a bit of hot glue to make sure the roses would stay in place and not disconnect from the stem. Okay, let's jump into it. We're ready. What you're first going to want to do is match 1 piece of baby's breath with 1 rose. Rocket science, I know. Just organize them like this. It'll make your life easier. So 1 rose per stick of baby's breath. Once you're done, you're going to want to prep 5 pieces of tape. It'll make your life easier. Also, connect the tape to some sort of plastic bin, as you can see on screen. If you do what I did the first time and put them straight on your kitchen table, you'll learn that it will rip the paint off. All right, now what you're going to want to do is take the piece of baby's breath and sort of wrap it around the rose. As you can see, sort of distributing those little baby's breath flowers around the rose, as you can see. You're going to have to play around with it here, but it doesn't have to be perfect because you can fix it a little bit later if the flowers don't end up exactly the way that you would like them to. Once you're done, add a piece of tape around to secure the 2 flowers together. You're going to want to do this for all 5 flowers that you've prepped. When you're done, you should be left with these 5 prepped flowers. Now take a second and prep yourself an extra 3-4 pieces of tape. And you, my friend, are already ready to start assembling. So pick up 2 roses, place them side by side, like you can see here, side by side, and then place one right in the middle. So you have this triangle form. Then place another one right down the side there, kind of straight in line with those first 2 that you placed, and big surprise, the other one will kind of follow suit. So you see you kind of have an X shape here. And then take a few minutes to play around with the baby's breath. If you kind of like that whimsical vibe a little bit more, you might like the look of more baby's breath peeking out, longer pieces. If you like kind of more of a clean, classic look, you probably prefer them to be more tucked in on the sides, but that's really personal preference. So play around with it, fidget around with it, take your time, and get it to where you like best. When you're happy with the final result, it's time to connect all those pieces together. So take those handy dandy pieces of tape you prepped a few seconds ago, and you'll just want to wrap those pieces right around the stems just to secure them together. After that, you'll want to wrap a piece of tape around the bottom of the stems just to really tighten them all up. It'll make things easier when we wrap the ribbon around them later as well. Now, if you've got one of these annoying pieces there that you so quickly saw who's poking out, you can, surprise, surprise, just slice it right off. Easy peasy. Cut it right off. Doesn't need to bother anyone anymore. There you go. Okay, now it's time to take out the glue gun and start adding the ribbon on. Now, you're going to want to add a little piece of ribbon over the bottom before even wrapping around the big, edge of the bouquet. So you'll want to just put a little piece of glue down and start attaching the ribbon. Now, I have a confession to make. I don't know if you've noticed here, but this is not the bridesmaid bouquet. It is actually the bridal bouquet. For some reason, I lost the footage of me doing this to the bridesmaid bouquet, so I'm just adding the bridal bouquet footage here so you can see the process is identical. So my apologies for that. But as you can see on the other side here, we added another dab of glue and pressed it down, and now we're cutting off that edge. And if it's sticking out on the sides, if you have a kind of a thicker ribbon like I'm using here, you'll want to add a bit of extra glue to the sides to really press down those edges. I have to say, working with a textured ribbon and hot glue is much easier than working with a satin ribbon and hot glue, because with the satin ribbon, you could actually see a little discoloration where the glue was added, whereas with this textured ribbon, you can't see a difference at all. Okay, now we're moving to the larger edge. So as you saw on screen, you'll want to add a dab of glue and then attach the ribbon, press down. You'll want to do this a second time just to make sure that the ribbon is really, really secure. So as you can see, adding a little bit more hot glue and then pressing down the ribbon. Once it's dry, you can start wrapping around. Be sure to pull very tightly here. I like to do an extra layer on top of the piece that had hot glue, just to make sure it's really tight. And then you'll want to slightly move down a little bit every time you do a full wrap around, as you can see with what I'm doing here. Once you're halfway down, add another dab of glue just to make sure that the ribbon won't unravel. Same deal, when it dries, you can keep going down. And when you get to the bottom, you'll just want to add another dab of glue and secure the ribbon. So this is what you should be left with once you're done. So you'll want to just cut off that excess ribbon. And you might have some frayed edges here, especially if you're working with a textured ribbon. So just play around with it, keep slicing. Eventually the edge looks clean in my experience. And I made a lot of these bouquets, I had 5 bridesmaids plus mine, and they always ended up looking nice afterwards. You just kind of have to play around with it and cut the little pieces off. Now, if you have some extra fabric here also sticking out, you can just add the tiniest amount of glue and press it down just so that it looks a little bit more clean, a little bit more sleek. And dun, 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 this is what you should be left with. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous bouquet. Okay, now it's time, the bridal bouquet. Quick side note though, a few different materials. I used a bit more roses, 15 roses for the bridal bouquet, and so 15 pieces of baby's breath. The process is very, very similar, almost identical, aside from the fact that there's more flowers. So take the time, same deal as the bridesmaid bouquet, to connect each rose with an individual piece of baby's breath using tape. This is what you should be left with towards the end. It's really not that long also, by the way, to do this. It took like 20 minutes. Okay, then again, prep some tape because you'll be putting the flowers all together, and it's just much easier if your tape is ready to go when you're assembling. Okay, now it's time. So you're going to want to start it off the same way that you started off your bridesmaid bouquet. So kind of creating that X with the first 5 flowers. And remember, the baby's breath doesn't have to be perfect because you can adjust it afterwards. You can play around with it. Okay, so you've got your sort of your bridesmaid bouquet right here. And you'll want to add 2 more flowers. It's a lot easier to also kind of base yourself off of, seeing me actually do it. But there you go. So you have sort of a thicker bridesmaid bouquet right now. Okay? Now you'll want to add sort of a second layer there, because the goal with the bridal bouquet is to have it a little bit more rounded. So you see you kind of have the flower placed lower but slightly curved so that it isn't peeking out as much, and it's kind of creating a second layer underneath the kind of the first row of roses. I hope that makes sense. It's easier when you kind of just look at how I'm doing it, but you can see it kind of rounds out the bouquet a little bit. The other edge, as you can see, that doesn't have flowers is a little more it kind of cuts off. See, fuller side cuts off. So you're kind of creating that second row. And you need to use roses that have a malleable stem because you kind of want to fold them out a little bit. You can see, like, I've tested this, so mine are a little bit curved already, but I positioned them that way so that they would be slightly curved out. And you'll kind of want to go around the whole bouquet, and if you see any gaps, fill those in. And it doesn't have to be exactly 15 roses either. You can have more, you can have a little bit less. The process remains the same. Now, this is what you should be left with. Oh, so nice. Okay, and like the bridesmaid bouquet, you want to play around with the baby's breath, play around with the roses, adjust the petals. Again, the look is really personal preference. It comes down to personal preference, but you'll want to play around with it. Now, I left all the footage in here of me messing around with the roses just so you can kind of see what the process looked like for me. But you're really just kind of tweaking, adjusting, and even when you put the ribbon around this, you can still, the roses won't be moving, but the baby's breath can still be moved around. So nothing is 100% permanent. When you're happy with the result, you're going to want to go ahead and take some tape. Now, do a lot of layers of this tape because there are so many stems in this bouquet. You really want to make sure that everything stays in place. It also does help when you sort of squeeze the tape down once it's on. It really, I don't know if it's just in my head, but it feels more secure when I do that. Satisfying. Cut off those stragglers and add a little piece of tape to secure them all in. This is a crucial step, by the way. Don't forget the little piece of tape. If you don't do it, it'll make things complicated, trust me. All right, now this is the same footage. It is the same footage that you watched previously. So I've sped it up because you know the deal. I'm leaving it in here just in case you're following along to this tutorial and making your flowers at the same time, just so you don't have to kind of rewind just to watch this part. But you can skip through if you feel the need to. But again, adding that little piece of fabric at the bottom to cover up the stems and securing that with your hot glue. And then the same process to wrap around the ribbon. It's really not that hard. I don't know why I thought that it was so hard to make a floral arrangement, to make a bouquet. It's really not. It took me less than an hour to do both of these bouquets, bridal and bridesmaid, less than an hour. So you're wrapping. I don't want to re-explain all this just because if you've heard it already, it's going to be annoying to hear it a second time, but you know the drill. And this is the final product. This is what you should be left with when you're done. Just beautiful. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, I really, really, really appreciate it. Please give this video a like if you liked it, subscribe if you are interested in more wedding DIYs. I have other videos using artificial flowers and other kind of creative ways that you can DIY your wedding. So if you're interested in that, please hit the subscribe button. Please check out the other videos. Thank you so much for being here.